I've been working on an article for Spotlight Caches with a breakdown that nobody's done before. I think it's going to be an appropriate article for the way I articulate. And that's how I'll lightly word it.
I'll be interested to see what the article sounds like and how you go through it, because after reading like 3 or 4 tweets today and just like looking at going, one of them I was like, I don't understand what you're saying in all these tweets or these images and whatever, to another one reading it and going, I don't fully agree with that. Based on, there's a lot of people that have like different views on what does this look like for free to play to medium level to whales to whatever. And like I read a bunch of it and I'm just like, I don't think half of this stuff is accurate. I also think it won't be until like 100% until like it's live, because I still think that there's some like weird nuances that could happen. There's still like 1 or 2 things out there that we're all like, well, we think this is what they mean. Based on the question we've asked and the answer they've given, we think it's this. So there could always be some little nuances that happen, but definitely super excited. And I think overall, at a super high level of it, I think we're all winners in it, right? Like I think what they're doing is good.
I think my breakdown is pretty clear. And I'll put it this way. It's not a super praise and it's not a shitstorm.
No.
If you could, sir, are ready to actually, minus this, I guess we can call this like a pre-section, if you will, kind of like we unofficially started the podcast and then like didn't start the podcast. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But if you're ready to go, good sir, I am.
Let's go, man. Let's do it.
All right, let's bring it on in with the official intro. Here comes the music, and this is where we always say, welcome on in, folks, to the Snapback podcast, where you snap and we snap back. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. That, of course, is Mr. Default Dan. Welcome on in, good sir. How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm doing good, man. The weekend was busy and fun. We went to Disney for the day, which is always a lot of fun. They have the new Ariel. The live action Ariel is actually in the park, which is crazy for Florida.
That's cool.
So again, in California, they seem to always have the new characters like the day after. Florida, we don't necessarily get a lot of new characters, but daughter loved seeing her and meeting her. So we did that over the weekend, and outside of that, man, just grinded out a couple more conquests so I can get a couple more infinite tickets for this week, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to be one of those crazy people that have like 20 tickets waiting, but I have a couple. I'll give a couple shots, and I'm just expecting disappointment, but we'll see.
I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Me on the other end, when it comes to that, I have sadly and thankfully simultaneously, because it means IRL takes in different weights. I have not had as much time to get infinite tickets or gold tickets or silver tickets or really any tickets for that matter. I have a few. I have not gone at like true try hard, and I'm looking to do that this week on some of my streams. Yeah. But outside of that,
you can at least buy one. You can at least buy one infinite ticket and see what happens.
And that requires me to actually still play it. So I have to get there. Okay. But look, we're going to have fun with it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm not at the moment, just, because of all of the other things in my life, I've had to kind of shelve it a tad, but that's just personally, even though I want to go super try hard, potentially the last day, because I want to see something. I want to test something on the very last day specifically. So we're going to try it. But we have a lot. I mean, that's one of the things we're going to talk about is, Conquest in general, that we're heading into the Infinite Week. I know we've got tournaments to discuss from this past weekend, including the Snap.fan Open. Weekend missions as well also rolled out finally. And then we've got Spider-Man 2099 releasing by the time you're listening to this podcast, and the deck of the week. So, I mean, I'm going to let you kick it off with the tournament side, because you, Mr. Tournament Director, Chaos Backend, let me break my computer trying to make this all happen.
Yeah.
Dude.
No, it's, when it comes to tournaments, we had 2 really large tournaments this weekend. We had the Snap.fan Open, which we'll be looking at some of the decks and things like that, which was crazy. And then we also had Creator Clash. So Creator Clash number 2 happened over in the UK. Again, Kawa running that event with Raven helping kind of set that up in the UK with a lot of big names over there. So, when we look at the tournament scene, there's always kind of these 2 different types of tournaments, whether it's the huge open, anybody can join type tournaments. And then we have these kind of featured streamers and things like that. Both have very talented players. And in this case, we even saw a little bit of crossover. So we'll talk about that one in just a second, but let's jump into the Snap.fan Open, which was the tournament we kind of put together, ran all day Saturday. We had well over 100 people, 148 or 160 something.
Yep. It was just shy of 150.
Yeah, so just shy of 150 actually in and playing. So we had over 200 people signed up, and then of course as day gets there, some people don't check in, but we had just shy of 150 people actually playing in the tournament, 8 rounds of Swiss, and a cut to top 8 after that. And we had some fun decks, and I'm gonna pull up this screen right here, which is, oh no, guest is gone. We're gonna fix that though.
You have removed me from the video podcast. How dare you? I am the editor, good sir. Right now it's just default Dan stream.
It apparently happens.
How dare you?
Where are you at?
Technical difficulties. I don't know. You've got me layered in there. So I'll go ahead and start taking that off because that seems to be. Why, thank you. It's look, you do you, I'll do me, and I'll give the lead in on this deck because this is the deck that absolutely exploded conversation. The fact that it won. This is Jung Cat's deck that went all the way through, went 6-2 in the Swiss, and took out everybody along their way to just decimate with a move deck in the June Open. Now, it's not just your everyday move deck because it has some very, very interesting selections, including Stegron and Vision. So for our audio listeners who can't see this on screen, it's Iron Fist, Dagger, and Craven. Pretty standard so far. Ghost, Spider, Cloak, and Vulture. Okay, still doing pretty good so far. Shang-Chi and Miles Morales. Okay, a little personal choices on in there. Stegron and Vision. Fucking
you
what?
You said Stegron.
Lastly, I know. I caught myself. I had to, swallow the reason for a second, but it is what it is. And then Heimdall and Magneto. Again, Magneto, a little bit of a personal choice, but when you look at the scope of the entire deck, it's amazing to watch this deck run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point, when you're looking at this deck, there was a couple spicy pieces in here because we have seen the movement, and we've seen a lot of kind of movement plus bounce and different takes on it. So, when you look at the list, like Heimdall tends to be one of those cards that's kind of not been showing up in the move decks because it's so predictable, right? When people start to see move, they're like, all right, turn 6, they're Heimdalling. So we've seen Heimdall kind of go away, but we're seeing him come back. So with cards like Ghost Spider or any of the locations letting you play your 6 drops early, it allows you to kind of do some fun stuff with Vulture and, have Heimdall as an option. But to your point, we kind of have some spicy ones with Shang-Chi, which really isn't a movement card at all, but it's a tech card with decks like the bounce deck getting really big and, High Evo having the big Hulk coming out. And there's so many cards that Shang-Chi can hit, Resurgence of Shuri and those kind of cards. But then Stegron and Magneto are kind of those two big spicy cards that are in here. Magneto's been in some of the move decks before, but not so much. It's been more of like throwing Magneto on a Craven, location or something, right?
Yeah.
It's not all the time, but it happens. But it's definitely one of those that we're seeing these cards kind of really come back to the forefront. And again, this deck won the whole tournament. This is not like they won 2 or 3 rounds. They went to top 8, which means they were one of the best top players, meaning they had 1, maybe 2 losses, and their second loss would have came in like one of the last rounds to make top 8. They also went through, 8, 4, and then the finals. So they won a lot of matches with us, and we saw some super awesome, exciting games, especially with that Stegron kind of coming in play.
Yeah, Stegron, I mean, that's the card everybody's talking about in this deck. It's called the Ghost Stegron deck, and it's a choice, and that's the best way to word it. It's a choice because the way I had the pleasure of being able to call this deck live during the semifinals and the finals, and watching this deck play out showcased how different the style of move was, because this is more of a defensive move deck. You have little offense options. things like Vulture that can ramp up, Dagger that can ramp up, Miles Morales goes down for very cheap, right? But then on top of it, you have these defensive pieces that allow you either to have inconsistency for your opponent, so they're never 100% sure exactly what it is that you're going to be doing. And then if you look at things like Stegron and Magneto being able to move those cards over as needed, or do you play the offensive lines of Vision and Heimdall, or go ahead and bump over that Dagger a second time as an offensive move? It's a really surprising deck, because it's also a little heavy on the cost. If you look at what the cards are actually costing, you have 3 4-cost cards in the same deck. But obviously, you think that like for me, at least with the theory crafting brain, I see, there's a bunch of 4 costs. I want to put in Zabu. It's just, reflex at this point. You see 3 of them. That's a 25% chance to have it. I'm getting good value if I go ahead and put him in there. That's a good package. It's a third of my deck. Like that. That's how my brain starts to work, but it doesn't make sense in the scope of only 12 cards. And then you see just the 1/5 cost in Vision, which is then allowing you to make a choice, because you have all these other 4 costs, including Miles Morales, who's typically only a 1. You can either use another 2-card package, because everything else is incredibly cheap. So you're looking at, amping and ramping on turn 5, or you're playing inconsistency by dropping down that Vision on turn 5. And now what are you going to do? It's just, there's so much guesswork that comes into trying to play against this deck that it makes it successful. And it was just some of the most wild combinations watching it all play out.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the way this deck works. It's a very, and I only say this because I have been playing it the last couple days. So after the tournament, we have, which we'll talk about our weekend missions in a minute, but we have this whole thing, win some games with Ghost Spider. So I was like, all right, well, let me try the deck, because I haven't played too much of the move decks. I played a little bit, and there are some surprising cards that are missing in this deck, right? The normal typical move deck, you're missing your Human Torch, which can get pretty big with the whole Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, but you do have to be aware of, Killmongers and things like that. But then you're also missing Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is another really powerful, Vulture into, Ghost Spider into Doctor Strange. Like, there's some really good synergies that you can do there. And instead you have these other more defensive cards, like you're saying. So Vision's really good because you play him on 5. If you know you're Heimdalling, you essentially have a card that you can move around. So when they're predicting your Heimdall move, you can kind of effectively, make this board look different before you actually make everything shift. You've got your Magneto, which could be a throwaway card, right? Like, there's sometimes where you're like, all right, based on these lanes, I'm going to lose this lane, but I'm going to pull their Darkhawk and their Rock Slide and all of these big cards over here to this lane and give up that lane and make sure that I have these other lanes with my Kraven and my Vulture that have kind of, gotten bigger and things like that. Another card that was kind of thrown out there, kind of going with the Stegron piece, right, is Juggernaut. A lot of people are like, well, if you're going to play Stegron, why not play Juggernaut? And in some cases, which we saw in the tournament, Juggernaut may have won them that particular location because they're hitting both cards coming down that turn. Whereas we've seen other ones where Stegron hits the card that's already there, and because of that, they win. But it is, a chance of the card going to hit the card that you want if they have multiple cards down there. So it was very fun to watch, because watching Jungcat, you would see them play like 5 or 6 cards, pick them back up, play them again, pick them up, try this. And it was like, to me, it was like you could see their brain processing all the different combinations that they could do that turn, and then settling it on one. Even if they did the same one 3 times, it was like they were confirming to themselves that, okay, this is it, which I'm bad about. I'm really bad about just throwing down my stuff, hitting go, and then I look back at it and go, oh man, I probably should have put that on the left lane.
Well, I mean, you also had a couple $100 on the line at the same time. You're going to take every second of that timer in the finals all the way down. And they pretty much did in the finals too. Like, they were clearly thinking through, because there were several times where, we were watching obviously from one perspective from Jungcat, and then it would be like 3/4 of the way down the timer marker. And in my head, I'm going, okay, they're running out of time. And then they click go. And then there's still time after that, because both sides were doing the same thing. They're just playing out every possible scenario. And a little behind the scenes, piece of information as well. Afterwards, because we have a chat for the top 8 to help orchestrate, when we've got broadcasts and things like that going on inside the Discord. And after the battle, they also continued the conversation of, hey, did you have the Magneto? No, I was thinking that you were going to do this. And then you see that you got to further look at their thought process just a tad as you realize how many levels these players were going by. Okay, so I please, before the entire community goes, oh my God, guess was shit talking KM Best. I'm not with what I'm about to say here, right? So because I knew he was broadcasting the match too. I watched his play and interaction with his community during the well, not during the broadcast, but after the broadcast of that moment in particular. And KM Best is a really good player, to say the absolute minimum, right? He's sitting there going, they're not doing this combo. They're not doing the Mjolnir into Odin. It's not going to happen like that. Like, he's even forecasting the move that Jungkat is expecting them to do.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, just go Magneto middle. And Magneto middle would not have technically done it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so interesting watching how so many different players are breaking down the final move.
Well,
it was really cool.
And I think that's where, when you look at this list, those cards that we kind of point out going, these don't seem like the normal cards, like a Shang-Chi and a Magneto. But it's like, once you see that in a battle mode, and that's the difference between battle mode and ladder, the move decks can't play in a vacuum anymore. So like in ladder, you can play in a vacuum, right? You just play all your stuff, you move all your stuff around, and maybe your Heimdall puts them where they need to go. But in battle mode, they've seen you do that over and over. So now you have to have these cards where they have to go, okay, so for instance, on that last play, like you're saying, maybe they had the Hulk, but they're expecting Shang-Chi, right? Or whatever, right? And then you're having to think about like, all right, well, who has priority? Is that are they going to play Shang-Chi and blow this up? Like, you have to think through all that. Or like you mentioned, Magneto, it's like Magneto coming down and pulling all that stuff from the middle. Now you got an issue, if he plays that. So again, in that particular instance, he plays Magneto right, it pulls the Thor or whatever. And then all of a sudden, where he played the Hammer plus Odin, that Thor is bigger than your Magneto. You just lost. So like, there's so many of these little nuances to where it's so crazy to have to go through all those calculations. And again, when you're in that high stress, I mean, this was a couple $100 on the line between both players. So it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was absolutely fantastic. It's an absolutely fun deck. And I highly recommend, if you have the ability to try the deck out, just give it a shot, because you're constantly sitting there every single time. I mean, we were doing it while just broadcasting. We're sitting there going, but they could do this. Oh, and they can do this. But wait, they could also do that. Like, just the potential for those turn 5 and turn 6 moves that, some decks, it's very clear. This is the line that you're looking for. Either you have it or you don't. And that's the only ones you're looking for. In a move deck, yet alone a defensively focused move deck, you're quadrupling the amount of potential options that you could play out, especially, like you said, in a tournament mode where several rounds later, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds later, your opponent's deck. Very likely what they are potentially still holding in their hand by that point versus something on ladder. So it was a really, really fun battle to watch. And I mean, it's just, it's a surprising deck. That's the best way for it. And that's what you need in tournaments, a surprising deck, because it took down Evo Lockjaw. It took down the overall #1 big deck right now in the game, in all game modes. And I mean, this version is just, with Spider-Ham now, it's just stupid.
Yeah. And this is kind of what came in second place. So, Quiros, I guess is how we say it. I'm terrible with names. I butcher names all the time, but it was the Evo Lockjaw deck that we've seen. Wasp, Spider-Ham, Lockjaw, Thor, Jubilee, High Evo, Lady Jane, Doctor Doom, Odin, Chavez, Hulk, and Magneto. So pretty basic list. Sometimes Magneto, sometimes is Infinite at the moment because of all the Spider-Hams running around. But for the most part, pretty standard list. And I would agree. Spider-Ham is one of those cards where, if you're going in the mirror and you hit their Lady Jane, because that's the current biggest card. If you're going against, even against that move deck, hitting the Heimdall early, taking that completely away. Yeah.
Psst.
What?
Just for our audio listeners, Lady Jane is Jane Foster's The Mighty Thor. Go on.
You know,
it's okay.
Everybody knows what Lady Jane is. Come on now. Lady Thor,
No.
Jane Foster. Okay.
There you go.
Anyway,
just get it.
Anyway.
Just articulate. Just articulate.
So those are kind of those things where like this deck pretty standard, but we had 2 of these decks. So 2 of these decks made top 8, and this was like almost half the field. It was at least a third of the field was this deck. So and then when you add in all of the different Lockjaw plus high Evo decks, it was close to half the field. So we knew this would be a big deck coming in there. And it would be one of those to beat. So it was very nice to kind of see, and again, no offense to anybody who played the deck, but it was kind of nice to see something different. We had 2 move decks that made top 8. 2 move decks actually made top 4. So seeing something different kind of come out on top is always what you want to see. And we had the same kind of thing when Thanos was big. We were always rooting against the non-Thanos decks just to kind of get that different deck coming in. I've got a couple other decks real quick just to run through that made the top 8. We got a Sarah control deck also making top 8.
Super steady, super consistent, super classic. I mean, Kitty Pryde, Nova, Angela, Hitmonkey, Zabu, Scarlet Witch, Mysterio, Bishop, Killmonger, Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Sarah. Like it is your core of a Sarah control style deck with that small little bounce factor between Hitmonkey, Kitty Pryde, and Angela. I mean, it ramps up super high with Mysterio Bishop. I mean, it's a staple style deck, but it's a staple for a reason because it's consistent.
Yeah, and it's slightly different only in the fact that we don't have Beast, we have Sarah. So normally, again, kind of looking at this, it looks similar to the Kitty bounce decks that we see coming through a lot, but Sarah's kind of giving you a different spin on it. But yeah, the deck is a good deck. You've got a lot of good cards in here. So they made top 4, which is also nice to see. Just something a little different. Again, close to that bounce deck. But that Killmonger Nova combo was doing some work on some decks when we were checking in throughout the tournament. And then we have one other, which was a top 8 deck that I wanted to kind of show off, which was the Surfer deck. So Meowcat made top 8 with the Surfer deck. And pretty standard.
I love it.
Pretty standard. Nova, Goose, Jeff, Lizard, Brood, Silver Surfer, Storm, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Groot, which is a little different, Polaris, and Maximus. So no Sarah in this deck, which was kind of a big change from your normal Surfer deck you're seeing, but I don't hate it. I don't hate the non-Sarah deck.
I am 100% behind that change for a number of different reasons. As someone who is a Surfer enthusiast, I am very often leaning in the idea away from using Sarah in a Surfer list because you can still play your curve beautifully, because obviously the benefit to Sarah is you could play 3 cards on turn 6. So you're kind of looking for that surprise factor. But in a deck like this, which features Storm and Juggernaut, you're looking at a control factor more than anything else. So instead of Sarah being your 5 cost followed by 3 3-drops, you could have instead a 2 plus a 3-drop go down on 5, followed by 2 3-drops. So you have that flexibility of still keeping the curve full, using every single mana the entire way. And you've got the restriction element of Goose. You've got Jeff to be able to hit that Storm lane. And then Lizard at a 2/5 power is fantastic. I would even potentially exercise Silk in this deck for the exact same reason, that it would have just enough variety and confusion and agency for you to say, okay, go ahead, swing her around. See if she lands in that Storm lane, because guess what? My Silk is better than your Doombot now. So bring it on.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. The other thing with the Sarah play that I've always never fully understood is, so Sarah's power is not very high. And then when you think about the fact that on turn 5, you're playing her so that you can play 3 drops on, because they're 2 drops now on turn 6, it kind of is the same thing. That's the part that I'm like always looked at of like, I could have played one of those on turn 5 and had a 2-drop. And in some cases, it's more power than Sarah. So it's one of those things where like Sarah's fine in the decks, but I don't think she's necessarily needed. And in some ways is a little cumbersome because you kind of get trapped having to neater on turn 5. I think it was different back in the day when you could magic on 6 and get your 7th turn. A lot of Sarah decks used that. And so I think when that was happening back in the day, it was awesome. But now with Sarah, it's kind of one of those, unless you're playing like 4 drops and you want to play 2 4 drops on 6, I don't think Sarah's is needed. But yeah, they did pretty good with the deck though. They took down a lot of competition. Meowcat did to get this in here, and loved the deck and loved what it did.
Yeah, look, I mean, think of the ceiling. I mean, because you're using some of the highest 3 cost cards. You know, you've got your Maximus and your Polaris, and very often people will kind of debate, ooh, do I go Polaris or do I? Well, okay, maybe I'll go ahead and ramp it another way by going Wong to get Surfer to go twice or whatever. No, just play Groot. It's okay. Now you've got essentially, if you do it right, a 3/5, a 3/6, and a 3/7.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Magical. You save Maximus for turn 6 and Surfer on that. Boom, boom. Call it a day. Restrict them with Goose. Lock them down with Storm Juggernaut. I mean, life is perfect. So it's a great curve fill for a Silver Surfer deck. Yeah. And I'm a fan of it.
So I'm gonna throw something out, because what I would love to see in this deck, and this is not specific for the tournament, but something I want to play around with after seeing the deck go. I want to see Beast in the deck. Beast is a 3. Beast gets hit by Surfer now. I'd love to see Beast come down on a 5, like a turn 5 or something. Picking up maybe your Groot that you've already hit somebody with. Maybe you pick up, I don't know if you don't pick up a Brood because you're going to pick up all the other stuff, but like a different lane. I don't know exactly. I'd have to work through all the math and all of that kind of stuff, but I think I would love to just try a Beast.
Okay. So there's only one combination in which I feel like that specific play works out really well. And that's if you get Brood on 3 down, Surfer down on 4, and then bounce it back into your hand on 5. And then play down the Surfer a second time again. It's a little bit cheeky, and without more like ramping cards like Groot. Well, not even. Well, I mean, then you're playing to the unless if it's a featured location, it's not worth playing into like that. But yeah, if you have more, like rampable cards and other ways to ramp from that, sure. Let's talk. You know, like instead of playing the Killmonger Nova package, maybe you play a different package. Maybe you play something like, you know, Beast and Hawkeye, but now you're doing it in 1 lane versus 2. Like it's just, I don't know. You'd have to like really start to tweak with it a little bit to get as many 3 cost cards at ramp in particular to, you know, like Groot does. You know, you want more Groots essentially. As I pull it back up on my own phone, I mean, you could do Ironheart to do the bouncing the same way. Maybe Wolfsbane bouncing the same way, you know, those on work. Reveals, like take a little finessing, you know, maybe we'll try it. But I like the idea of what Meowcat did with this deck by getting rid of all of the big cards. Just no 4s, no 5. You gonna hit me with a nice man? Wham! Like it's not the worst thing in the world. Like Baron Mordo, we'll talk. But no one's playing Baron Mordo in a competition. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. No, I like it. And again, you can turn 3 Storm, turn 4 Juggernaut, turn 5, you know, Brood into, you know, Brood plus Jeff or whatever into Maximus Surfer. Like it's got strong plays that can come down. I like Killmonger in there, especially knowing that Kitty Pryde is everywhere. You know, Nebula, all those cards are just kind of hanging out in the 1-drop slot. So being able to use that Killmonger was a good call in the current meta of the tournament. So overall, though, the tournament was a great tournament. We had a big showing from the community. Awesome matches. I think that was the most fun I've had in just the crazy plays, seeing everybody just like holding their heads as, you know, some of these plays were happening all throughout the day, which was a ton of fun.
I know. I'm still going to push you, though. I'm still going to push you to get multiple matches for like a golf tournament. Just being able to switch between different matches at all times. Like I'm gonna get you there, man.
We gotta figure it out, because the problem is once you get sucked into a match, you want to know who wins overall at the end. And by the time you finish up that match, to get another one on screen, like most of them are finishing up, they're already done. So it's because of the 3-minute delay. It does cause a lot of that to happen, to where I tried it one week and it was like, all right, we got the second match, and they had like 2 cubes left, and like we brought him in, the cubes happened. It was like, okay, the match is done. So I don't know. We gotta figure something out. If
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We got time. We got to figure it out. But maybe it's for some of the new stuff for the future. We'll find out. But
yeah, I've got some ideas. I got some ideas on how to do it. I may need another computer.
But yeah, you have any other shiny decks for me to see?
All right, so as far as this tournament, again, we had one other deck, which we won't go into detail, which is the bounce deck, right? We had the bounce deck show up.
Yeah.
Macaroon made top 8 with it as well. Pretty standard.
Bacon
Kitty
bounce.
Pride bounce, right? So it's Kitty, Bass, Spider Ham, Iceman, Angela, Hip Monkey, Mysterio, Bishop, Beast, Shang-Chi, Iron Man, America Chavez. Iceman doing a lot of work. It's actually the versions with Iceman apparently have a better win rate or cube rate, one or the other, within these particular decks. But yeah, Spider Ham taking away some of your big drops is always huge. And then Iceman, again, slowing down. Because if you hit, your Jane Foster, a.k.a. Lady Jane, that's huge against that deck. So again, just depending on who that Iceman hits. But yeah, we saw that deck. We saw a lot of the second most used deck for the tournament was this Kitty Pride bounce with High Evo, Lockjaw being the number 1. So those are kind of, again, the 2 big decks that took over the tournament, but losing out to that move Stegron deck. And then talking about tournaments, we got 2 other tournaments to kind of talk about. One other one that happened is Creator Clash UK. So I want to give a big shout out to Kawa, because what Kawa is doing in those tournaments to get these things together is insane. I was lucky enough to be at the one in New York a couple months ago where we all did it in person. This time around, it was over in the UK because, again, a lot of creators over there, and there were a few, like I know Eggs and a few others that flew from the US over there.
Yeah.
To compete.
D-Money. Yeah.
Yeah, D-Money. And yeah, they had an amazing 2-day event. They split up into 2 days this time around with some Swiss leading into a top 8 cut for day 2. So I did get to catch a couple of the matches on day 2 with the top 8. Again, I know the Snap.fan ran at the same time as their Swiss rounds, but Lammy Sirius, if you guys know him, he hung out with us the other day with some questions and things like that on Marvel Scrap, but I'm sure we'll probably get him on here on the podcast in the near future. But he took it down. He had 2 different decks. So the big thing about Creator Clash and the big thing about a lot of these creator events is they do it differently. They do it with 2 decks. So rather than it being just an open list, everybody can see your one deck and know what you're playing, they kind of try to make that a little different with giving everybody 2 decks. And when you're going into your match, you're able to pick one deck or the other. So at this point, you have to think about how you build your deck. I don't know all of the rules. Normally, you can't overlap cards. Some of these tournaments, you're allowed to overlap 1 or 2 cards. I don't think they could overlap in this one. We'll see when we pull up the second deck. But we had the Kitty Pride bounce deck being the first deck here. Again, same deck pretty much we just saw on the other side. So Kitty Pride, Bass, Spider Ham, Iceman, Angela, Hip Monkey, Jeff, Mysterio, Bishop, Beast, Iron Man, and Chavez. I think the other list didn't have Jeff that we just looked at, but
the other list didn't have Jeff or Shang-Chi, and this one then further included Iceman and Iceman and Jeff. That's the substitution in.
Well, the other one had Iceman. I think they had Shang-Chi over Jeff. Yeah, let me see. Hang on one second.
You have the tabs open. Just look.
I got it. I'm going. They had Shang-Chi with no Jeff. So I run a very similar deck. I do not run Iceman. My Iceman's a Jeff to this list with Shang-Chi. Whereas with Lammy, he does not have Shang-Chi, and instead he has Jeff instead of Shang-Chi. That's the difference in there. So here's the thing. I love Jeff. He's just one of those cards to get with this bounce deck. If you have a location that's turned off, there's nothing you can do about it. You literally have to give up on that location. Jeff gets you there. And yes, he loses to a Doom bot, but honestly, the Doom decks are very low. There's not many out there. It's one of, and not to say it should, I think it should be out there, but it's not currently. So I like Jeff in the list, but he used this deck, and then the other deck he used was the High Evo Lockjaw. So it's a little different because of that cards not being able to be crossed over. Wait, is this? No, this is way different.
No, you're right.
This is way different. This is not Lockjaw. This is just high Evo.
High Evo control. Ish. Yeah, because you've got Storm and Spider-Man in the deck. Yep. So the whole deck, for those who are not looking, is Wasp, Sunspot, Nebula, Misty Knight, Daredevil, Storm, Wave, Cyclops, High Evolutionary, of course, followed by Spider-Man, Doctor Doom 2.0, 3.0, whatever he is now, and the Incredible Hulk. Now, one of the things I do like about this deck is that, again, you only have 3 cards that are over 4 cost. Mm-hmm. So put that together, you're playing a lot of littles. And because this is not a Lockjaw deck, you're not trying to pop out that Magneto, that America Chavez, that Odin, that Infinite. No. Hold on. Let me just play a Storm and then a Cyclops and then control you. Or Storm plus Nebula and Sunspot and Misty Knight to keep throwing some, damage over there. And then let me also put in the Daredevil Spider-Man package for turn 5. Like, it's all about holding back your opponent rather than trying to just go over the top of your opponent. That's what this deck is focused around, is just staying one step ahead. So that way I know going into the turn 5 and 6 exactly what I need. And more importantly, do I have enough, whether I know my turn 6 card or not, do I have enough going out of turn 5 to even be competitive? Yep. So I do like this deck because it is that restriction play. But at the same time, control decks are a lot more difficult to run. Obviously, we had some very top-end players over in UK Creator Clash 2.0. So this is not a simple deck, but it also wasn't a simple operator. This was Lammy. Lammy is an incredibly detailed and experienced collective card game, trading card game, tournament player who's used to this level of competition and theorizing and going, like chess, so many levels deep. So this is a deck that you got to have that for.
Yeah, and I think he's a grandmaster over in Hearthstone, or was. I don't think he potentially plays anymore. But yeah, I mean, he's very, very detailed about his decks. What surprises me though is because he has Jeff in the other deck, you don't see Jeff here, so the Storm play gets a little trickier. You've got, Spider-Man in here instead of Professor X to actually lock down the lane, which again, having Doom with Storm and Spider-Man kind of tries to help with that little bit towards the end. But I like the deck. It's definitely one of those that you have to know how to use it because you're not doing the Lockjaw luck draws where you're throwing Wasp in there.
Yeah.
So your Wasp, your Sunspot, your Nebula, right? We talked about it a minute ago with the Surfer deck. Like, you have 3 huge 1-drops here. So it's just one of those things that when we look at the way the deck runs, there's a couple cards that can definitely be a problem to this deck. And because of the open list, which we'll talk about in a second, it's one of those things where because you could see the open list, that they don't have Killmonger in either of their decks. They don't have Luke Cage in either one of your decks. This deck looks pretty good, right? Because your Luke Cage isn't just going to remove everything Cyclops has been doing. Again, a lot of these decks play Storm into Cyclops to just literally take that lane now. So there's a lot of really good cards in here, and I'm glad, again, going through a lot of these deck lists. And I didn't really get into the weeds on a lot of these deck lists, but I did look through a few of them, and I just wanted to kind of showcase Lammy's, who took down the entire event. The fact that they are so detail oriented, and again, going back to like Jeff, because Jeff's in the other deck, he's not here. And so it's very interesting when you have to be in that mindset of, all right, I have these cards, which deck do I put them in? Again, we talked about this when High Evo was first announced, like Luke Cage is gonna be in every single deck, but here we don't see him in either deck. So knowing that High Evo is going to be in a lot of decks, but it's just how everybody's playing at this point with the cards. So wanted to kind of give a big shout out to Creator Clash. Again, what they're doing is amazing, getting all these content creators together and doing in person, because again, in person is such a crazy experience, and is so awesome. And I can't wait for SnapCon in just a little bit, where we'll have our tournament going on there in person with all of us being there. I know, guess you're flying in from Brazil. to do that, along with
immigration pending, basically.
others.
But yes,
several others like
I'll
Matrim.
I'll figure it out.
Matrim will be there with us. We'll have Jolly Roger, who, if you guys saw on the Snap.fan Open, was hanging out with us. He'll be there. Several others, Felicity, GC, Eddie. If you haven't seen it,
Felicity better be there. She's running it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you haven't seen it, check it out over on the website. I know the one I know, which is felicity.gg/snapcon. You can check that out and get all the information. But that's going to be just down the road. And the last tournament I want to talk about just briefly, because if you guys don't know, Friday, we've got the World Snap Federation. So I kind of want to hint it on this because we have the huge public facing tournaments. So you got Snap.fan, the Open we just have. We got Wednesday Night Snap on this Wednesday, another smaller tournament. If you just want to play 4 rounds, come out, have fun, hang out. We've got things like Battle Arena that runs on the weekends. You got the Snap Clash running on the weekends. Those are all full public. Anybody can join. It's free to play. There's some money to win, all the good stuff. You've got things like Creator Clash. You've got several other ones that are out there. I mean, there's so many that are creator based, which is, hey, we're going to pick these 16 people and you're going to watch these 16 people play, which is awesome. But then we had the fun, crazy stuff. So I started in the Cube Rush stuff. Now, Cube Rush was already going on for a little bit. Well, when I got in there, I just loved it. It's different. It's not me versus you, one single deck. Let's go. I'm playing the top deck.
Yeah.
It was always fun. Use variants, use only 2 cost cards, whatever it was for the week. And that kind of led into the birth of this World Snap Federation from Eddie and GC. And I know you're a part of it. So this will be your first debut in the World Snap Federation this Friday. And how you feeling about it, man? You excited about your match?
I am. It's tomorrow specifically is my day dedicated to following up with all the final details of what I'm going to need for that match, between the deck that I'm going to run, the ads I want to put out for Wednesday/Thursday in preparation for it, to say it lightly, because Nicolina, sorry, girl, it's just not going to happen. I tell you right now, it's just not going to happen. I don't know. The other guy's not here right now. He's calm. He's been put to bed. But if it's just me, I'm going to politely say it's not going to happen. I will advance, and you shall not.
No.
No.
And it's fun. Ligature.
It's so much fun though, man. I love this idea.
If you enjoyed Cube Rush, or anybody out there either enjoyed it or doesn't know what it's about, definitely check the stream out on Friday, because it's a ton of fun. The fun part about this is it's not just basic matches. There are special rules to all these different matches. There's gonna be a lot of just like crazy drama. So if you like wrestling, if you like the theatrics, that's what this is. We get to go into our alternate characters, personas, and just kind of have some fun with it. So I'm going to be battling on Friday, STG. So I've got Super Tech God, STG. He's bringing the big deck energy, and we're going to see what we can do. So if you guys haven't been following on Twitter, we're doing an epic match for the title. So I do hold the title currently at the World Snap Federation, but we're doing an epic match, which is going to be best 3 out of 5. So it's not 3 out of 5 battle modes. Don't worry, we're not going to leave you there for 3 hours. It's 3 rounds. No. So no snaps, no whatever. It's 3 rounds, best 3 out of 5. And potentially we can switch some cards in between the round, as well as bans are happening. So again, I threw down the gauntlet for 3 of 5. STG said, hey, he needed bans. He needed bans to try to beat me, because we saw what happened to him against Queen last time. She threw down a goose. That big deck energy can't take on a little kitty.
Yeah, this is true. Goose will just annihilate you.
Yeah, so we got some fun bands and stuff going on in there. But like I said, like, it's just fun. It's a whole lot of fun. Everybody's doing something different this week, so definitely check it out. We've got a lot of brand new faces coming, along with people who participated last month, and this will be a monthly thing going on. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, definitely come out, see it and everything.
Yes, sir.
And then the other thing, I'll kind of wrap up with the tournaments. as we kind of move on, because I know it came up in the chat, and it is kind of one of those, I don't want to say controversial, because I feel like that word just brings up red flags, but essentially people talk about the open and closed deck list. I don't want to go way into the weeds of it, but at this point, most of all these tournaments, just to explain it, most of these tournaments are open deck lists so that we can get people sharing their screen. That's true for all of them out there. Essentially, what ends up happening is, because we can't, we don't have a spectator mode. Second Dinner, please give us a spectator mode. We have no way of making sure that people are using the correct deck. So if we say it's closed deck list, literally they could switch decks every single round, and the only way they would ever get caught would be if they're featured on stream and they weren't using their correct deck, which they're not going to share their screen if they're not using the correct deck. So it's one of those things where that's the only way it's really able to do for any of these public facing tournaments. And then when it comes to the creator types of tournaments, they tend to do that open deck list so that they can share it to the public. They want to bring up hype. They want to show off, like, here's decks and things like that prior to the event going on. So they can't do that. And then, you know, the other people see them and it'd be closed deck list anyway. So it's the reason why it is right now. Maybe at some point we'll get some type of spectator mode and things like that, and we can bounce in between matches and do deck checks like during round 1 or 2. Maybe if that happens, we can get to that point. But as of now, that's why you see so many of these events as open deck list, because if it was a closed deck list, nobody'd share their screen, because if they share the screen round 1, any of their competitors through the next 7 rounds can literally know what they're playing because they saw them on stream. So it's different. So we'll kind of transition from that into weekend missions, but I wanted to throw that out there because I know that's a topic that definitely comes up, and it's hard for now. We'll see what that looks like in a couple months from now when Second Dinner finally listens to us with all these tournaments. So
once they get out the full screen UI, then we can push. We can push a little harder, because clearly, I mean, they've said it in multiple places now.
Yeah.
That is their next big release is, PC full screen UI. Yeah. And I am hoping it is as epic as it is in my head, because all of these potential extra animations that could come to light in a full screen, like widescreen mode, could be ridiculous. Could be absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So fingers crossed that that's great. And then after that, sure. Let's go for it. Give me spectator mode, please. Push the tournament side, please.
Yeah, I'm still, when it comes to that full UI, I'm still kind of like, meh. You're catering to streamers, which is fine. It's what people will see and push out and all of that. So I 1000% get it. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, it's a mobile game. It's a mobile first game, and I would bet you 70% of your population or more is playing it on their phone. So you're pushing something out to 30% of your population. And I don't know. We'll never know those numbers. I mean, that's my guess.
Well, I mean, I've talked about it. I've talked about it in the past too. Steam takes out less of a cut off of expenditures than Apple and Apple and Android. So that could be a reason to push it too. Yeah. But we don't know. We don't know.
So moving on, and again, we're going to get into a lot of topics today. We still got the Infinite Conquest to talk about, Spider-Man 2099, which is dropping in just a couple hours, and then our deck of the week. But I want to just touch on a little bit. Weekend missions, because they're new. We were supposed to have them the other weekend. Something happened. Didn't have them.
Yeah.
But we had them this weekend, and so we finally got kind of the first look at what does weekend missions look like. And let me pop this up on the screen for those watching over here. And
there
again,
you go.
This is not the best. I had to crop it to where I can see this at the bottom of the screen. But essentially, we had our weekend missions. I've already finished 2 of them, so I can't even show you all 3. Sorry. But they involved using new cards, right? So 2 of them, I believe you had to use Ghost Spider. Was that right? And then one was with Spider Ham?
Spider Ham. Ghost Spider Season Pass one, right? That's the gold one. And then Spider Ham's the one for collector tokens, correct?
And then there was a credit one. Was the credit one Spider Ham, or was it Ghost Spider? Because there was
credit
3
one
total.
was just being active.
Okay, just being active. Okay, so credit one, everybody can get, just win X matches or do whatever it was. Again, I wish I would have taken a screenshot. I'm not prepared. I didn't think about this till this morning. But yeah, we had the other ones. I know I've seen some messages over there saying like, oh, that means we have to go and get the card of the week or whatever, right? So if you get the card of the week, Spider-Ham in this case, you could get tokens. So you could kind of get a slight refund on what you were spending on those particular cards. And I think that was a good thing. Like, I mean, it makes you kind of think about getting that card. And again, not going to go into Spotlight Caches yet, but that means it's free tokens if you get them in the Spotlight Cache. It's free tokens for later or whatever else you want to buy it on. So, yeah, you had to open stuff to get the cache, but we're not throwing that out the window. You have a cache, you opened it, you got Spider-Ham for free. Bam, you get some free tokens here. But I don't know. The other one was nice because it was making you, incentivizing you some extra gold to get the battle pass. I mean, what are your thoughts on these weekend missions? Do you like them? Is there anything you would like to see change? Do the amounts feel right?
The amounts feel like they're already set for post Spotlight Cache values. So for the next couple of weeks, these values seem very low, and post it will feel different because then they will feel higher. Either way, and I can only say it so many times. One, first off, I don't work for Second Dinner. Neither of us do.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, look, if you spend a half hour a day, an hour a day playing this game because it's fun for you, I don't think a $10 a month thing is really breaking the bank. And I still consider that pretty much free to play because that is, what you pay for Netflix. It's what you pay for, any other subscription service, $10 a month. And then you get so much more because of it. And now the addition of extra gold on top of it by playing over the weekend, which you may potentially do anyway. Like, it just to me seems like a win-win-win consistently when you have, these weekend missions come on out. And sure, you might not get the collector's tokens one, which may have a different value moving forward now too, because of all of the changes up and coming. But when it comes to the idea of weekend missions, I think the combination of putting in the weekend missions and putting in the Infinite Conquest in the last week of the month, these two solves help the two weakest activity times for the game. The game's highest, activity points are not the weekends when people are off of work, because that's when they're out doing other things. They're playing the game, as you said, it's mobile friendly first. Hey, I'm on my lunch break, or you know what, I just want to hide away, or whatever it may be. You're doing a lot of little pieces of time, but maybe you have that extra time or that extra half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. So the game customizes really well in that aspect of featuring the midweek as being the primary activity time. But we don't want you to forget about us by next Monday. So let's give you a weekend mission to focus on. And I know all the good cards that we've all been talking about for 4 weeks are out now. Okay, fine. It's the final week. But no. You got something else to do here right now too. So they're reinvigorating the two weakest points in the play concentration right now by doing the weekend missions and the Infinite Conquest. So for the longevity of the game, as well as, look, it's more free resources or more resources for your investment back to you. Yeah, it's a win-win.
I mean, I also look at it like this, right? So many people look at this and they go, oh, you got to do. So we were informed in the chat. So if you're listening on the podcast and stuff, it was 15 wins gets you the credits. So just win 15 times and you get the free credits that were there.
20
times. Okay.
I have I sent you the screenshot.
Okay. So win 20 times, you get some credit. So the thing is, like, these are free currency if you are already doing these things. So yes, it's an incentive to get the card of the week. It's the incentive to get the battle pass. But here's the thing: if you're not already getting it, it doesn't matter, right? Like, just imagine that this battle pass one was on the leaderboard thing, or whatever, the collection, whatever. So it's just, there you go, the track, that word. So
that thing. I know, words are hard.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, I just think it's just extra stuff added to the game, and the people that look at this and go, well, they shouldn't be doing this because I have to now do X, Y, Z. It's like, you don't. It's just extra if you want to. And that's kind of how I look at it a lot when it comes to these extra things that they're going to be putting in there, within the game. So
small little enhancement. I like it. I'm for it. I'm for it.
And I would agree with you, because if you look at it like this gold treatment and things like that, I have to win with Ghost Spider, but at the same time, we'll see what it looks like every single weekend. If every weekend is wins 15 matches with Ghost Spider, then it is what it is. But 4 weekends, that's 600 gold, right? And you may start to like the card. I feel like it's to push you to use the card, because I remember getting those stats. I don't know about you, but at the end of the month, when they give you that email that's like, come check out your stats for this season. I think it was Hitmonkey, or it was one of them. Like, I literally played them like twice, like for the whole month.
Probably Nimrod. It was probably Nimrod.
No,
Let's be honest here.
I was playing Nimrod like crazy, because I love Destroy.
Oh, okay.
But I love Destroy, but I did not like Bounce. Like up until this month, I really didn't like Bounce. So it was definitely one of those things where it was just like, looking at that, I was going, all right, so I don't use this card at all. I used it twice. And I think that that's kind of what they're targeting too, of like, buy the card, use the card. And for those just joining us live, thank you so much for the raid, for hanging out with us and chatting over there. So, but yeah, so I don't know. I think overall weekend missions, I think they're good. I mean, I don't think they're bad.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of indifferent with them, but I think they're good to give us something else to do on the weekends. If you want
100%.
to. And as you can see, I still need 5 more matches with Ghost Spider, and I have to win them. But so we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah. I'm on board with it. And just as much so, when it comes to new shiny things.
Yes.
As we transition to one of the biggest topics, which is going to be Infinite Conquest this week.
Oh, I can't show Infinite yet.
Way to be on top of it.
I'm locked into one. I got to go win it first, and then I can show it. You can't,
because we started to talk a little bit about it, and this is the big week that a lot of people are really, this month in particular. Conquest is finally here. The announcement came out, and then a couple weeks later, we finally got it out, and now we're finally going, okay, we got a chance to do this now. Woohoo!
Yeah.
How bad does it suck to lose on round 4? That's what the real question is. Because
I can tell you.
I mean,
I can tell you.
It's gonna
hurt. Round 3 of Gold already feels bad. So
yeah,
round 4 of Infinite is gonna feel terrible. It's gonna make you throw your phone and have to walk away for an hour. I'm telling you right now, it's not gonna be a good one, especially if locations are the reason or a bad draw is the reason. Because losing round 3 of Gold, not that it will like make me have to walk away from my phone, but there's a lot of times where I'm just like, okay, I've got to take a little bit of a break before I do my next Gold run, because it doesn't feel good.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about just the time commitment alone. If you got to go through 5 rounds, right, and you get through round 4, awesome.
Yeah.
Get into round 5, you're sitting there like, all right, every move counts. This is the big one. This is the big one. And I don't think we've ever gotten it confirmed from Second Dinner right now that, your round 5 eligible people are going up against your round 5 eligible people. It's just Infinite versus Infinite, no matter what round,
I don't
to
think
my
they'll
understanding.
be able to do that. Yeah,
I don't think the pool is going to be that high, but it's still Infinite versus Infinite. We know that much.
Yeah.
So we're now at this play point of, okay, it's one thing to lose round 1. It's another thing to lose round 5. And somebody has to lose, obviously. And if you don't know what round they're going for also, it's another match. You just have to go through it with that mentality. It's just another match.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult when, I think back to, Twitch Rivals, and we watched, I believe it was Jeff who went 4-0 on a really difficult tournament schedule, get to match 5, lose. And it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a great player. And one bad call, one bad projection can undo literally over 2.5 hours of work.
Yeah.
And that's the part that really is just going to make people, grind their teeth and throw their phone is, man, this absolutely sucks. So I put it up as a conversation a bit, on a stream one time. And I ask you this question too, with, even if it's just on Infinity Conquest, because you're trying to get through 5 specific matches, is 10 health points too much?
Here's my thing. Like, It's going to feel bad. I am okay where everything is right now. I actually personally, this is a hot take, nobody's going to like it, but if I start seeing a bunch of infinite avatars, then it needs to be more difficult. Because here's the thing, I look at this, and again, when I look back at Infinite, right? Infinite on ranks, when I look back at that, again, hot take, people didn't like this take, people don't like this take. There should only be a very small percentage being infinite. Now, the hard part about that is everybody wants the card back. It's really cool and whatever. So I get that they've made that easier for a lot of people. You know, whether it's the gold, Guardians cassette player, whatever, right? Whichever month it is. Right now it's the Spider-Man 2099 one. Like, I get that. That's a huge, awesome cosmetic. Everybody wants it, so they've made that a little bit easier. But I think over here, the problem is 3 months from now, once you have one or two of these infinite borders, like, you're not going to care about getting all your cards infinite, unless you're like a completionist, whatever. But for the average player, they're going to get one, and that's the only avatar they're ever going to use for here on. So if this becomes like 15 people get this month, great. I think it's right where it needs to be. Maybe more than 15, but you know what I mean? Like 15 people we know. 15 people we know. I'm not saying like the full population. I'm just saying people we know out of the 100 plus that we know that are going for it. I think it's in a good spot. But if I start getting back in the ladder next season and then like everybody has it, it's not hard enough. Because I do think it needs to be very, very difficult. I think it needs to have a weight to it of why you're putting this much effort to it. But we'll see. We'll see. I look at how many people got infinite tickets so easily right now with the way the bounce deck is and how broken it is and all of that, or the high Evo lockjaw deck. So I'm really curious to see what happens, of how many people get it. I'm curious when I do my runs, how they go. But I think the good thing is, like, I think that the way that they've kind of set this up though is you don't have to. You don't have to go after infinite. You don't have to get the infinite thing. You can still get stuff in the shop. And I kind of want to open the question because it came up in chat here too, right? So all you could just grind Proving Grounds the whole time. And I think you need 50 wins. 50 wins gives you this exclusive card. It gives you the avatar, the infinity ticket, all this stuff. It's just 50 wins in Proving Grounds can get you all this stuff. So I'm curious from your side, should that be the case? Should you be able to grind Proving Grounds as much as people are doing to get all of this stuff? Should these prices go up? Should Proving Grounds tokens or something go down? Should the silver, participation tokens, should they go down? Like, what are your thoughts? I know you haven't played it as much, but like, thoughts around that?
Don't fucking touch it. I'll tell you why. Okay, there you go. There's your answer. Look, got to wake you up a little bit here. Listen. You don't want to touch that, because those who are working that hard for more cosmetic than resource reward, if you're trying to get the avatar, if you're trying to get the title, if you're trying to get the boosters, if that's what you're grinding for, have fun. Have fun. You do you. Because in my opinion, if you've put in not just 50 battles, but 50 wins. So let's say on a good win rate on a deck, 60% win rate, right? That means you did probably around 80 battles, 85-ish battles, right? If each battle takes you, let's say, 20 minutes average?
Yeah.
Plus or minus, I think is a safe number, right? If you did 80 battles times 20 minutes, you're at 1,600 minutes. So if you're at 1,600 minutes divided by 60 minutes in an hour, that's math I can't do in my head fast enough. It's to 20 something hours, right? It's 24, 5, 6, whatever it is, hours of playtime. I'm sorry. At that point, you've earned enough. You've earned enough because you've put the time commitment into doing it. There's no reason to need to lower the prices if that is your strategy. If your strategy is Proving Grounds exclusively, look, you earned it. Kudos. Have fun. When you look at the broad scope of the entire economy, though, it does change a little bit different. It does change a little bit to the sense of, okay, you went on in, because also remember, to get to that number, you have to also start a silver conquest too.
Yeah.
Remember that also. So that's even more time to add on to that. So yeah, you've earned it at that point. You just
start it and then you retreat. I think that's what people are doing.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
So,
Start retreat.
Like,
if people are doing that, that's just stupid.
Just 2 minutes.
That's just stupid. But that's a conversation for another cocktail. But if you're actually like trying, right? Let's say you win half of your proving grounds and then you win a quarter of the silvers that you actually earn out of those. Like, you're still in a good resource, place. But the only people that are really sitting here going, man, I wish the store was better, are the super insanely competitive players. And it's not a large enough market to justify adjusting any of the prices yet. I don't see there's any reason right now in the current economy of this store to increase the prices when you're trying to incentivize play. So there's no reason to do that. I think that's just stupid. If you want to grind out the proving grounds and win 50 battles that way, hey, over the course of 30 days, you're going to win 1 or 2 a day. Kudos. You know what? Have fun. You do you, move on. If you do really well, thumbs up, enjoy the rest of your day. That's 3 battles a day. That's still an hour a day. You've earned it.
Yeah. And again, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if anything needs to be touched in the store. I don't know if we need one other like item in the store, right? Like, here's the thing. I'm going to be getting, I've got it over here on the screen, if for all you guys watching either on YouTube or live here, like I'm going to be skipping the credits and gold for now. Because I just think the values that you're getting are to me are not as high as what I want them to be. But I'm going to be getting all the items. I'm going to be getting the tickets. I'm going to be getting the avatar. That's going to give me the Green Goblin variant and everything. Right. And then I'm going to be dumping everything in this 105 boosters. Because to me, with the spotlight caches, with all that kind of stuff going on, I personally need a ton of boosters. I don't play enough. Yeah. I get Infinite every season, but I don't play enough to have like 2,000 boosters sitting on my cards to be able to get enough caches and all that. So that's where I'm dumping mine. Everybody's going to have their own opinions on what you do, but you still get mystery variants, silver tickets, titles, all that good stuff. And I did get the Green Goblin boosters, but for the most part, I'm going to get this 105 boosters because I think it's a way better deal than going after the 155 Green Goblin boosters, even though it's going to be a random card. But I don't know. I think the other thing that we do have to keep in mind is this month we lost an entire week, right? We went into week 2. Yeah. So it's going to feel different next week when the shop only has the first level of stuff. So when we jumped in, we actually had 2 different levels of things you could purchase rather than the one. So I'm just saying in general. Easier. Yeah. I'm just saying in general, I'm interested to see what this looks like next month when we say that, oh, it's too easy to grind all this stuff, or it's too, hard or whatever. Again, I'm really more so focused on what is taking down Infinite going to look like. Is that too easy or hard? I think the shop's fine for now. I would like to see a couple other things where you could dump your tokens into, whether that's just extra mystery variants, maybe like you get the first one. I don't remember how much it was, but let me look. It doesn't say. So, you get your first one at whatever couple hundred it was, maybe 200 or whatever. And it unlocks the next one that's like 400. Then the next one's like 600, then 800, and then like 1,000, whatever it looks like. Like I would like them to be another way to get us some variants. I think that would be a really cool. So have it infinite, but have it to where like you've had to work your way up to get to the infinite one. And then from there, it's 1,000 tokens, 1,500, 2,000, whatever it is, to where it's still a grind to do it, but it gives you something more than just boosters to dump into. Because I know a lot of people don't necessarily care about dumping them into boosters. Maybe they'll get the gold or they'll get the credits. So
just had an evil idea. We should put out like a contest next month, because now I think it'd be just mean and too awful. We should put out a contest for in Infinite who can win 5 matches in a row with Agatha. Like, if you make it to 3 matches in a row, you get this award. If somebody makes it to 4, that's deleted, and then this person gets it. Like, an incentivizing Agatha in Infinite contest just to completely screw with the community. That would be so. I know it's evil, but it's fun. I think, and I like that.
I think if you had a way of spending credits, or you had like right now we have like the one infinite ticket. If there was a way to use your medals for infinite tickets, I could see people doing a lot of fun stuff with infinite tickets. I think the problem is the amount of gold. I don't know. I haven't been able to see yet, but whatever that amount of gold is going to be too much. It's going to be too much to spend gold on for a ticket.
500, I think.
Yeah, so like 500 gold's too much for one chance at infinite, in my opinion. Again, there's probably people that are sitting around with, 100,000 gold. Maybe that's fine for them, but for the average player, you don't spend your gold on it. Like just don't get the avatar. If you can't get through gold to get your ticket to get to infinite, just don't. But
it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to do some fun stuff there. I'll have a couple tickets to try out. At least, hopefully, everybody should be able to have these 350, medals to be able to get a shot at it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. We've got a full week of Infinite Conquest. We're not sure what's going to happen on day 3 or day 4. If everybody's used up their tickets, what happens if nobody's pairing? We don't know.
Told you, I want to do a test on day 7.
So yeah, so here's my thing. I think day 6 will be the day you want to do a test. I think day 7 you're going to get the people that are like super the completionist, whatever, FOMO, and they start to spend their gold on day 7. I think there's people that are going to be grinding out all day long on day 7 to try that one more shot. But I think your day 6 and your day 5 are going to be very dead. And it's going to be hard to find people, is my opinion and my guess. I think tonight you're potentially going to have everybody because streamers are going to want to show it off. I think tomorrow you're still going to have a bunch of people because there's going to be some streamers that are like, well, XYZ is streaming, so I'll stream tomorrow so that I'm not competing to do my runs, right? But then like day 3, 4, 5, like those are going to be the days I think it'll be somewhat dead. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, like I said, Infinite Conquest starts tonight. The shop will update. You'll be able to get these last couple things in the shop. Hopefully, everybody is able to get that Green Goblin variant because the Carnageized, even though we already have a Red Goblin, the second Red Goblin that's an official Carnageized Goblin variant will be available, and I hope everybody's able to get those different rewards to be able to do that. So excited to see that this tonight as it rolls out. So going into tonight and rolling out, we have a new card coming up. So let me
roll out. I can't pull that song off. Yeah.
Let me pull this up. Make sure I
can do it
right.
I believe in you.
Boom. We got Spider-Man 2099 coming in tonight.
Yes, sir.
And there's a bunch of hype around this card. And I'm curious, with Spider-Man 2099, he's a 4/6, and the first time he moves to a location, destroy an enemy card. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man 2099? There's a lot of hype. Are you on the hype train or not so much?
People aren't going to like me. And I know that. I mean, granted, a lot of people don't, but, I've come to terms with it. But I think, to be honest, to be completely honest, I think that Spider-Man 2099 is currently a little bit overhyped. Now, let me justify one thing with this, though. I think that this month and next month, he will be great. But the packages that you need to build to make him work are move packages, right? You need a cloak, a ghost spider, a Doctor Strange, and a weird combination. Like, you need that second move piece to make that happen. And it's something I've been sitting and thinking about because I was thinking about it, as I was reading the article from Drewberry on Snap.fan also talking about Spider-Man 2099 and the different combinations that you can run with him. So I'll break him down like this, okay? If you're a player that runs a move deck, you're going to love this card. Plain and simple. In an actual move deck, it's going to be a very successful card. Very successful card for all of the reasons. Whether you're moving him afterwards and you play him before somebody like Ghost Spider, or you're dropping him down and waiting something like Bifrost to activate him and just kind of because the locations play into it, or you just do a simple turn 5 him and Iron Fist combo, or whatever it is. Like, if you're playing a move deck in particular, he's going to be a great card for you. outside of that, in creating these mini packages, recently I've been trying to do a lot of that with like building mini surfer packages or building mini, like we have bounce. You wanted to do bounce and surfer, for example. You want to put a bounce package in there. There are certain mini packages that can fit into any deck. You could put the oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Storm and Juggernaut, right? You could put that package into a variety of different decks, and it will work as long as one of those other two cards has another card it synergizes with, right? Spider-Man 2099 needs move cards. And when you think about cards that benefit off of move cards in other packages, that's the hesitation. Yeah. Because the theory crafting ability up until this point has been extremely exclusive to saying move is move, you stay in your corner. If you can work, if we can figure you out, you're great, you're fun, you're creative, you're different, you're unexpected, you're unpredictable, awesome. But the rest of us are going to stay over here. And I worry, the more and more I sat on getting Spider-Man 2099, I'm like, am I going to get him? Because now with the Spotlight caches coming out, I'm sitting here going, is it a good investment of 3,000 tokens? And I think at the Series 4 value, he's still good and worth it. But I do think that his use case is a little bit overhyped, and he will be a great card for about a week and a half. And then there'll be 1 or 2 Spotlight weeks next month. But then after that, it's going to be as common as Master Mold. And let that sink in, because Master Mold is a great card in very select decks. Yeah. The same exact case with Spider-Man 2099, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. So I think he's good, and I think in certain decks he's gonna be very good. So like you mentioned, the obvious is the new Ghost Spider plus Spider-Man 29. That way you can move right and not just left. Being able to have something like Iron Fist or being able to have Cloak allows you to move, but now we've literally just made 4 cards of our deck. So if we're using Cloak, now we got to have something in there that makes sense to also move him, to be able to utilize Cloak if you don't draw Spider-Man 2099. So it's definitely a good card. It's definitely a card that can work in a deck, but realistically, you're already building a 6-card deck. So you're building, like we've already mentioned, Cloak, potentially Doctor Strange, right? If you have this worked out correctly, Spider-Man 2099 on 4, Doctor Strange on 5, which maybe isn't your best move, but you could do that, right? And you made sure that he's your highest card. It's a potential. So I think there's a lot of cards that can work with him, but you are locking yourself into, I need 2 or 3 move cards plus Spider-Man, plus now I need some cards that if I don't draw Spider-Man. So now I'm looking at Vulture. I'm looking at, Human Torch, whatever it may be that's going to work with those cards. So it's definitely a difficult one because of the fact that you're having to do so many things. Now, I still think there's some spicy decks out there. Will they be top tier? No. I think you could definitely play something where you do Shuri and Galactus within this combination, to where you could say, hey, if I get Iron Fists and I don't get Spider-Man 2099, but I have Shuri and I have, Galactus, I can Iron Fist Shuri into Galactus, right? And do some ridiculous stuff on a turn 6 that they're not watching for.
Yeah, I play that. I love that deck.
Yeah,
I love that combo.
Yeah, so I think that there's definitely some stuff you can do, even with something like your your whole a Cloak pattern. You could potentially Electro with Cloak or Electro into Doc Ock, into Cloak, into whatever, right? There's ways you can do some stuff, but it's definitely one of those things where I think he is slightly overhyped. I think if you're destroying a card, because we have to remember this is a random card. So just like we saw with Stegron in our finals match of Snap.fan the other day, Stegron did not hit the Odin. It hit the hammer. Yes, that made a difference and still helped or whatever. But if you were using 2099 and now you just blew up a 0 power hammer instead of their Hulk, instead of their Odin, it feels really bad. So it's a little different than a Shang-Chi, who is also a 4-drop. I know that the power difference is there, a 3 compared to a 6, but you're guaranteed to blow up that big card or big cards in some of these decks. So
plural.
Yeah.
Cards.
So, and Negasonic is another one to think about when you're thinking about blowing up. You've got, a few other cards in there. And yes, GC, technically you could blow up the hammer before it flips to get rid of the 6, but I'm just saying in general. No,
he doesn't kill face down cards. Only revealed cards.
We've got that confirmed.
We have had that confirmed.
Okay.
So it is somewhere deep in the team answers. Somewhere. I can dig it up somewhere. But it is enough for us to say that, okay, your strategy may be a little different than what you originally thought, because it would not have done the same as Stegron in that battle. But be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah. So to your point though, it's one of those things where he has some limitations around him. You're having to build around him, whereas a card like Negasonic, you're not building around as much. A card, which again, you lose Negasonic. I don't like Negasonic. Just throwing it out as a destroy card. Shang-Chi is always going to be my go-to destroy card. I get that this can hit an 8 and Shang-Chi can't, but it's going to be randomized. Segron's similar, right? Being able to hit somebody over or something like that. So
exactly.
So anyway, I would compare him very closely with a Stegron as far as the play patterns, but keep in mind you are having to build cards around him. So we're at a 2 or a 3 card combo into a deck, and I don't know. I want to be pleasantly surprised. I will be picking him up today. I will be doing some experimentation with him this week because he's a Series 4, so he's only 3,000 tokens, and with the new spotlights coming, I don't know what I'm going to be using my tokens on anymore since I have that complete collection. So I don't know, man. What are your thoughts as far as, are you going to pick them up? Are you going to be playing with them? Like, is it something where you'll try them a couple days and you expect to put them on the shelf like we did with so many of these other cards coming out? Or do you think he'll stick around for a good bit?
He'll be a shiny toy, but if he doesn't fit into bounce, ramp, or high evolutionary, he's going to be left alone for a little while. Those who are playing move are going to love him and put him into the move decks. It might throw off certain combos. So just be careful about how you use your Spider-Man 2099 and which cards you choose to get rid of. But I think he's a good card. I still think he's worth 3,000 tokens. I am going to be getting him. I am going to be testing him. But I do fear that a lot of people who have said that he's the best card of this month, and those who still believe that prior to his release, I'm afraid a lot of people may end up very disappointed.
Yeah. And I would equate that to like Silk. I feel like Silk wasn't as hyped, but Silk was one of those cards that I saw a lot of people pick her up. And I'm not saying she's terrible, but there's a lot of people that picked her up and they're like, meh. And we did see that a lot with previous cards. And then you give them a couple months until somebody figures out what to do with them. I think that's going to be the case with Spider-Man 2099. I think he's obvious of what you do with him now, but give him a month or two, and then somebody's going to be like Thanos and be like, oh, here's a space stone. Boom, Spider-Man 2099 just blew up your stuff, and you kind of forgot about that interaction with him sitting on the field, kind of doing his own thing over on the left side. Like, I think that's where he's going to shine in a month or two when people forget what he does.
Do not make me start needing to theory craft move Thanos. That's just so much of a headache, man. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Thanos is a great deck, but don't make me need to add that mechanic too, man. Let me just kill things. Let me just stick to death. Let me just stick to ongoing. I don't need to shimmy stones around. We already had naked Thanos over the weekend. We don't need to have this Thanos also come to the party. Okay? Yeah. No.
So kind of going from Spider-Man 2099. Again, we've talked about it. We feel like he's a decent card. We will be picking him up to check him out. I would just say if you're limited on tokens, this could be a skip. unless you are an avid move player, don't think you need to play. Naked and for anybody listening, Naked Thanos is pure Thanos, meaning we're not using Lockjaw. We're not using any of the crazy mechanics that you saw Thanos everywhere. Somehow on the podcast it got called Naked Thanos and it stuck all weekend.
No, it wasn't called that. I don't think on the podcast. Talked about on the Snap.fan. Yeah, in the tournament. Yeah, it was in the tournament. They referred to it as Naked Thanos, just pure straight up Thanos, and I referred to it as Thanos with his stones out, because that's basically it. It's just focusing on the secondary pieces. It's just straight up Thanos.
But the list was actually called Pure Thanos. Somebody thought it was Naked Thanos, is what the list they thought it was named, but it was just called Pure Thanos. But
it's just great though. It's just funny as hell. But speaking of fun decks you can build, what do you got for me, good sir?
Yeah. So let me pull this up, and I want to go back old school. So we've got all these new decks floating around, and High Evo being definitely one of those decks floating around. Bear with me if you're watching this live and or on the channel later. And let me switch from this screen.
You can do this. I believe in you.
This screen. All right.
Hey.
So I'm going back to Exodia. I'm going back to, and you can modify this a little bit, but High Evo has no way to deal with this card. Has no way to deal with this combo. Cosmo has decided to go take a nap in the doghouse, because I have not seen a Cosmo in 2 weeks now. So what are you gonna do? Yeah. What are you gonna do when I Wong into Mystique, into Gambit, the entire board, into Odin, my Gambit yet again? So the deck may need a couple adjustments and things like that. I think this one is a little different because the Hazmat plus the Gambit kind of gives you two different outs. It doesn't have the Zabu ramp into the early Wong. You don't have to go too hard on it. But I've been seeing a really big downtick in Luke Cage, and a really big, and like Cosmo's gone at this point. He'll be back, but right now Cosmo's gone. So sadly, like I'm going after this. I've seen it happen several times now, blowing up an entire board. And even if you don't get the whole board, like if you think about the High Evo decks, they don't play a bunch of cards in a bunch of the lanes for power. So being able to blow up a handful of them is enough. Giving White Tigers, so being able to Gambit a few cards away, White Tiger to put a couple Tigers down on the other lanes, you can steal some wins with the deck. I'm not saying the deck is going to be top tier, whatever, because you may still struggle with some of the bounce decks and how high they go. But if you time everything right and they have priority, just clear the board and win it that way. So I'm going a little classic this week with the old Wong card, the Exodia combo. If you've ever heard that, if you're new to Snap, it's an old school thing. Exodia being from Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to have all these cards to come together. You do. So if we go through the card list, you've got Hazmat, Luke Cage, Ironheart, Mystique, Gambit, Wave, Wong, White Tiger, Magic, Sarah, Onslaught, and Odin. And the way this works is you get Wong down on 4. You do Mystique you do Magic on 5 somewhere else to give you an extra turn. Then you do Mystique. I've done this wrong. Because
yes, you have. It's okay. I'm so glad that you're explaining this deck. So in the version of the deck that you're running, Magic is a secondary backup play. Yes, I got this. It's fine. It's your goddamn deck. I'll take over though. It's fine.
It's been
Magic is a backup play. Clearly. So it's a backup play when you don't get Mystique down. So your 5 is either Magic or Mystique, right? You're trying to get Wong down on 4, followed by one of those two cards. If you play the Magic line, you've bought some more time for that Odin. So you can go ahead and play secondary other combinations on top of it, like Hazmat and Ironheart on 6, followed by Odin. Or you can ramp it up and put Onslaught on 6, followed by Ironheart or Gambit or something on turn 7. So Magic's there for that reason. But if all goes well, brilliantly, fantastically, awesomely, beautifully, you can go ahead and play your Wong on 4, your Mystique down on 5, and potentially Hazmat also down on 5, followed by either Odin or Gambit on the same lane, and either reduce everybody down to nothing or just delete the entire friggin' board either way. It's a awesome combination deck, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to explain your deck of the week because Jesus, dude.
I go down because there's so many paths, right? Here's another path. Right?
Yeah.
You can Luke Cage early. You can go ahead and get your Wong on 4. You can get your Magic on 5. You can then play your Onslaught on 6 on your Wong location. And on turn 7, you can Mystique into Gambit. So that way you have Wong, Onslaught, Mystique, copying Onslaught, which is giving you tons of triggers. Gambit coming down and this is turn 7 with the Mystique Gambit. Gambit coming down, wiping the entire board. It's so many triggers, everything's dying. So there's a bunch of different avenues. If you don't do Gambit, then if you got that Luke Cage down early, you can hit the Hazmat. Hazmat's going to give them a million minuses, and they're not going to come back from that. So
have you seen that, by the way?
Ways. The Hazmat?
Have you seen that error? No, the Hazmat error that now happens.
Yet. No.
So it's a very specific combination where it's that last combination. Right? Kind of, yeah. It goes into such a negative that it actually switches into negative imaginary and turns into a positive. So if you but it's only one specific combination. It has to be on Onslaught Citadel, and then you play down in that order: Wong, Onslaught, Mystique, and then the Hazmat on top of that, and it goes off like a bajillion times. And it's like negative,
like pluses.
Yeah. The negative actually switches into a positive. It's a max out glitch, but it's really funny to watch. I'm not gonna lie. It's really funny to see those numbers. Like, I'll send it to you later. It is. It's a very rare situation, folks. It's not a reason to not use the deck. It's still a very good deck because you have a lot of different outs to work with.
Yeah, and again, it's not going to be the best deck in the game. I can tell you right now, but it's one of those when it wins, you feel amazing about it. So don't take this into Conquest. Go on ladder.
Oh yeah,
play around with it. But it is a ton of fun. And again, there's so many little nuances of this deck. You could bring in a Psylocke or a Zabu if you want to try to get your Wong down on 3, which makes it a little more potentially more consistent within that. But again, a lot of different avenues that you can do with it. Probably the wave, like again, I haven't really updated this since the wave change. So like the Sarah plus wave change is probably not necessarily the best combo anymore. It used to be a little bit better, where you could get your Onslaught plus something down, a little bit better. But anyway, it's a fun deck. I would definitely say if you've never played the Exodia deck in general, try it once or twice, because when you win, you feel good. When you lose, it's fine. You're playing a fun deck. So anyway, that's my deck of the week. I'm not going to give you anything super competitive, because if you want competitive, go do the bounce deck. Go do the high Evo deck. Those are your two best decks right now in the format. Everything else is kind of subpar to those decks, in my opinion. Unless you're playing like Sandman something and you feel confident with it, because it's a hard deck to navigate. But if you want a good deck, use one of those two. If you want a fun deck, use this deck.
Yeah, I like the way you think, good sir. I like the way you think. Yeah. We've touched a lot of different topics today, and I know this is a little bit of a longer podcast, but it was for all the right reasons, because we had major tournaments, we had brand new incentive to play the game, we have an exciting end to the first Conquest mode month ever, and a very exciting card in Spider-Man 2099 all coming and all needing to be topics this week. So it was worth going a little bit longer than normal, but as always, I think it's appropriate that we just, take a second to say please and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All those comments that we've been getting a lot of very positive feedback from y'all, whether it be through Snap.fan, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be the ratethispodcast.com, which you could find in the link to give us a rating on how we're doing on this podcast. We really appreciate everything that's already been coming on through. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And we're going to keep pumping out this podcast, because you know what? I think we have almost just as much fun letting all of this off of our chest. Yeah. Because, let's be honest, you and I talk all the time about anything and everything, whether it's game related, whether it's life related, whether it's Snap.fan related, whatever it is, tournaments, etc. And then to sit down and kind of consolidate those thoughts, and then also every single time surprise each other with new conversations. It's something I look forward to, because it's just, to me, one of the best mediums to get news and get information and get opinions across is through, these kinds of conversations. So I'm thrilled that, we get to do this twice a week. for the most part, twice a week. You know, life happens, but you know, it's still twice a week. And we appreciate you as an audience as well, consistently supporting us as we've now become, once again, the official podcast of Snap.fan. And we'll continue to pump out as much content to you as possible. So for those who do not know, once again, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. That is Default Dan. Default Dan, please say goodbye to our lovely friends.
Y'all take it easy.
I can't believe we did it. You went classic.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I've come to terms with the classic exit, you know, for you. So
yeah.
I don't set the bar very high for you though to begin with. So just keep the expectations low, and you'll always be able to step over the hurdle. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it.